Hey there, gardeners. My name is Damon Barr from Barn on Farms, and today I am very excited because all of my seeds arrived in the mail, and I might have a problem because I have a lot of seeds. Let's just say I have a lot of seeds. Last year I planted a lot, 34 seed packets remained, and this year somehow I ordered 34 more packets of seeds. So let's go through everything I have and let's plan out the garden for the summer of 2025. Let's start off with my garden journal. I think keeping a garden journal is a very important thing to keep track of when you're planting things, to find out what works and what doesn't. Thanks to my garden journal, I know the peppers I planted a couple days ago should take 7 days to germinate because that's how long it took last time. If something changes, I'll take note of that and keep that info for next year. In my garden journal, I made a little seed catalog for myself because I have so many seeds and I need to figure out what to plant. I categorize them by plant type, if they're new or old, and when I should be planting them. So let's go ahead and go through all the categories, and I'll start with the first one, which is tomatoes. And by the way, you might become enraged at the way I categorized my seeds. That's fine. I don't care. I say a lot of words wrong. I call dirt soil, and I call vegetables fruits, and it doesn't matter to me. It's my own form of plant English. I really don't care. So for tomatoes, last year I grew my Roma tomatoes, which gave me a ton of headaches. And so I wanted to switch gears and go away from the sort of Roma paste tomatoes. And I have two new varieties that I'm going to grow. One is an early girl and one is a yellow Mimi. I thought it was yellow mini, which is how it looks, but it's called yellow Mimi. At least that's what it says on the seed packet. I ordered all my seeds from Johnny Seeds, and that's because I used them last year. I spent a little more than I needed to on these seeds. I don't recommend buying from Johnny Seeds unless you A, have the money to do so, and B, you feel like you want that extra quality. Their germination rates are very high, and last year all of the vegetables that I grew from them were very high quality. So they're a brand that I really like, and they're pretty reputable too. A lot of people suggest them, and they're have a lot of certified organic, which is important for me because down the road one day I hope to sell vegetables at a farmer's market, and being organic certified is it's really important to me anyway. It's important to me. It's not important to everybody. It's not completely necessary, but it's important to me. So the next variety that I'll be growing is squash. If you know me, you know I love my squash. I love my zucchini primarily. And I got two new types of zucchini. One is pretty similar to the yellow fins that I grew last year. That's the yellow golden one that is an old seed packet. And this year I'm growing the golden glory, which is another golden yellow zucchini. It's not a yellow squash. A lot of people will comment, don't you mean yellow squash? Why are you calling it a zucchini? It is a zucchini. It just happens to be yellow. I don't know what to tell you. For the green zucchini, I'm going to be growing the Dunja variety, just a basic normal green zucchini. And I decided to go a little wild this year, and I'm growing the Y Star Patty Pan summer squash. I have no idea what this is going to be like. Assume it's going to be pretty similar to growing regular summer squash. I don't know how I'm going to cook it or prepare it or how it's going to taste, but I'm really excited to experiment with this because it looks cool. Sometimes you just have to garden because it's fun. And with the old seed packets, like I talked about, I have my yellow fin, yellow zucchini. The green one was the Kefren from Johnny Seeds. And I also grew spaghetti squash last year. Maybe I'll grow one or two spaghetti squash plants, but I'm not going to go super hard into spaghetti squash like I did last year. Next up is peppers. And peppers are one of the first things I showcased on my YouTube channel back when I started my What Happened in the Nebraska Garden series. And so the only new peppers I have this year are these hot peppers, the Pantera jalapeno peppers. I am not a huge spicy hot food fan, so I just went with a basic jalapeno, and maybe I'll expand my horizons next year. And for the old peppers, which if you're subscribed to the channel, which I highly recommend, you've seen a lot of, I had the Red Knights, the Lunchbox Pepper Mix, and the Sweet Sunrise. And I also have a random variety of heirloom seeds that I did not label from last year. I just kept a few seeds off of a couple peppers. So I'm going to see if those germinate. You can check out my new seed starting series that I have going on the shorts page if you're interested in checking out if those heirloom seeds actually germinate, because I'm very interested in that myself. Next up is cucumbers. And so the only difference between this year and last year is I'm not growing those sweet hybrid cucumbers. I thought they were really bitter. And what I didn't know is that growing them next to other varieties of cucumbers can make them more bitter. So that's my own fault in that regard. What's really funny about this is I loved the Gershwin pickling cucumbers so much that I ordered a new seed packet without realizing I still had like half the seeds left over from last year. So cucumbers up the wazoo this summer. That's the plan. In addition to the pickling cucumbers, I bought a slicing variety, the Diva cucumbers. I'm excited to try them out. Next up, we're going to be getting into melons. I thought this would be a very good category because I only had one watermelon, which I bought this year, and I ditched my old watermelon seeds last year. I wasn't too impressed with either variety, to be honest. So for the cantaloupe, last year I grew the Divergent hybrid cantaloupe from Johnny Seeds, and this year I'm going with the Trident cantaloupe. I'm going to grow both varieties, just try to figure out which one is my favorite. And for the watermelon, I'm growing the Juice Box watermelon. And this year, instead of just leaving a little patch on the ground for these melons, I'm going to build A-frame trellises with tiers going up the middle for the melons to rest on. A lot of the garden ideas I get these days are from YouTube. Some of the channels are James Prigioni, Grow Veg, and the Rusted Garden, who taught me basically how to start seeds. And I stole that A-frame idea from Gary over there. So go ahead and check out all those channels if you're interested in learning more about gardening, because that's where I learn everything from, YouTube. Next up are onions, and I know this first one might make you mad that I put it in the onion category, but I'm growing shallots this year. The the conserver variety, I don't know how to say that, of shallot. My wife and I love eating shallots, and this would be a great addition to anything we do in the kitchen. And I'm sticking with the Talon yellow onions that I grew last year. I didn't grow enough of them, and I spaced them out a little too close together, so I didn't get huge big bulbs like I want. And this year, I'm going to be doing things a little differently with my onions, so stay tuned for that on the seed starting series as well. In addition to that, I love the green onions I had last year. I ate scallions with pretty much every meal, and this year I'm growing the Yago bunching onions from Johnny Seeds. Let's get into our leafy greens. That's the next category, and basically all new plants this year, except for the heirloom arugula seeds that I had thousands and thousands of, and I probably will find a bunch more just sprouting up in the garden because they got everywhere towards the end of the summer. And that's not a problem. It's like free plants. I don't have to do anything and they'll show up. So I'm pretty happy about that. Let's start off with spinach. We have the Greenock and the red tabby spinach. One's a Savoyed, the Greenock, and the red tabby is a smooth leaf spinach. I love spinach, and I'm going to start these seeds today actually because, spinach can stay inside until it gets warm enough, and spinach can take a little cold. So let's get those started today, along with the other leafy greens. For lettuce, I'm growing a iceberg lettuce, the Crispino from Johnny Seeds. And that's the only lettuce I'm really going to grow. My wife and I don't eat a whole lot of lettuce, actually, as it turned out. We're more into the arugula and spinach side of things. And then for Swiss chard, I loved the rainbow Swiss chard I grew last year, but one of my complaints with it is that the red and the yellow ones, the flavor was it was strange. The stems were they were different. I don't know what it was about them. So I kind of tried to stay away from the rainbow varieties. And so I'm growing the Fort Hook Giant. That's just a green Swiss chard, but I didn't go all the way away from the colored varieties. I'm growing the Firebird Swiss chard, which I think it's a very cool color. And I'm excited to see how this kind of Swiss chard tastes as compared to the colorful stalks with still the green leaves. This one is all purple. I called this next category roots. It involves carrots, parsnips, and radishes. The old ones, I grew these hollow crown parsnips from Burpee last year, and I didn't really eat any of them because I didn't know if I didn't know what I was doing with them. It was just an experiment to see if they grew. I'm not sure if I'll put these in my garden again, but it's something for the early spring when there's nothing else to grow. So maybe I will. And these main crop carrots, the sugar snacks carrots, I grew these in not during the peak time, and I didn't have deep enough soil. The soil was very shallow where I grew these, and the carrots suffered as a result. So I'm going to be planting them in a taller raised bed this year, and hopefully we'll have better carrots in the summer. And we also have an earlier crop of carrots that I bought, the Orange Fancy early carrots. Those will be going out pretty much as soon as the raised beds have good composted soil. And then for radishes, I got rid of all my radish seeds from last year. I just wasn't too impressed with the varieties, and I went with the canned Bravo from Johnny Seeds and the Rover radishes from Johnny Seeds. Next up, we have Brassicas, and I really just categorized everything so that it would be nice and easy to keep on a list and also spread out on the table so I can keep track of. In the future, I'm going to be making a seed box with different sections and categories, maybe a binder of some sort. I don't know. We'll play it by ear. Be on the lookout for a video like that. So starting off with cauliflower, I'm growing this amethyst cauliflower, which it's purple cauliflower. I mean, what else could you want? It looks cool, and it's I'm not a huge cauliflower fan, but I've said that about a lot of things I grew last year and ended up loving. So maybe I'll become one. For broccoli, I'm growing this Monty broccoli, just a typical broccoli, a little more heat resistant as the summers in Nebraska do tend to get hot faster. And so I'm hoping that I can extend the broccoli life a little bit more into the summer. And this one is a quick star kohlrabi. I'm growing kohlrabi for a family member who loves it. I've never really had it. I've had a couple pieces of kohlrabi before. I've definitely never grown it. So that'll be a great experiment to see how this goes. And this is something I can get started early into the spring and before it gets a little warmer out even, I can start these. Next up is beans. Last year I never really got around to planting them because I didn't have good enough trellis systems, but this year I'm going to build one of those arch trellises. I almost called it a hoop trellis, an arch trellis between a couple of long raised beds. So I'm hoping to get more beans in the garden. And with that, I bought these red noodle pole beans, which I thought looked very cool. And I'm very interested to see how they taste. For peas, I still have a lot of sugar snap pea seeds as well as a bunch of heirloom seeds that I collected. So again, I'm going to experiment and see if those seeds will grow well. And I'm sure these ones will grow well after last year. I loved these. I need to get these started as soon as I can because they do not last very long into the summer and they are so delicious. I love these snap peas. I highly recommend the sugar snap peas from Johnny Seeds. Next up, we're going to be talking about the herbs I'll be growing. And if you don't think some of these are herbs, please let me know about it in the comments. I'd love to hear every way that I'm wrong about categorizing these. So for the old, let's start there. I have a lot of these. We have the Tuscany basil, which I never really successfully grew. It was completely on me, just growing them at the wrong times, putting them out when it was too cold. I'll definitely be trying to grow the Tuscany basil again, as well as these star oak chives. Again, I just threw chives outside with my other plants. I didn't really keep track of them, and I kind of just tore them out. I didn't think they were growing very well, and so I'm going to try to grow those in a different way. And we had the Calypso cilantro, which I thought worked out fine last year when the season was right, so that's a good variety for me. And this anise hyssop, I didn't really do anything with that. I'm not sure if I'm going to even grow that one again. I had this Greek oregano, which again, I tried to grow and put in the greenhouse and forgot about it, and it sort of baked in there and dried out. And so the oregano didn't go very well. That's a cooler weather crop I've learned recently, so I'm going to be looking to start this one soon. And then we have the Teddy Dill, which did great and I loved and tasted amazing. And so for new seeds, I had to hit that spending limit to get free shipping from Johnny Seeds. So I bought a couple duplicate seeds, starting out with the Cruiser cilantro, just another type of cilantro. And then we have this, it's a downy mildew resistant basil, the Noga DMR pelleted, that's the name of it. Not very spectacular, but another kind of basil. And then we have parsley, the giant of Italy parsley. I'm excited to see how that grows because I do enjoy parsley. And then we have a different kind of dill, the Italia dill, just another kind of dill. We'll see which one I like more. Next is the miscellaneous category, which, to be fair, these probably could have fit into another category. Maybe eggplants could have been in with tomatoes as nightshades, but these are just random plants that I might not be growing again this year, so I just categorize them as miscellaneous. And the miscellaneous seeds are my jambalaya okra, which I do have some heirloom seeds too, so I'll try those out. I just wasn't too impressed with the okra, and I just kept forgetting about it, to be honest. I wasn't super excited to go harvest okra. It seemed more like a chore than something I was excited to do. But the pickled okra turned out well. So maybe I'll give it a try again and actually dedicate some space to these instead of just leaving them with my cucumbers and melons. And then we have the hybrid Italian eggplant Traviata from Johnny Seeds. Again, I wasn't too much of a fan of eggplants last year. I started out really liking the eggplants, and as I kept growing them, I just sort of lost that luster for them. So I don't know if I'll be growing eggplants again this year. And the other miscellaneous is the loofah gourd, which actually turned out to be a lot more useful than I expected. A lot of them didn't go as planned. We had a frost after I got home from a vacation. I only harvested one good sponge, and I didn't know what to do with the rest of them. And it was just sort of a mess. And it was something I grew late into the season. So I figure if I start these earlier, start these after my last frost, then maybe I'll have more success. And if I give them more dedicated space, we'll have better loofahs this year. And last but certainly not least is the flower category. Flowers are a key component of success in the garden. They attract pollinators, and I just like the way they look. So let's go through the new seed packets, and then we'll go through the old ones, and I'll talk about what worked. And so for the new seed packets, one of my wife's coworkers actually gave us a heirloom packet from their garden of zinnias. So I'll be growing their zinnias this year. And that's something I'm really excited about. That's gardeners sharing seeds, and maybe we'll return the favor next fall with some heirloom seeds of our own to give to them. And we'll just create a chain of gardens helping out other gardens. We'll be growing the Queen Sophia marigolds from Johnny's Seeds. I love the way that these look. I'm very excited to see these, and I'm excited to grow more marigolds in my garden and actually use them in ways that help other plants, grow them with other plants instead of just in one bucket that didn't really do anything. Next up are these branching sunflowers, the Summer Breeze. I had zero success with my sunflowers last year, so I'm going to dedicate a lot of time to making sure that they pop off this year. I really want big, beautiful sunflowers in my garden. That is one of my top priorities. The other sunflower that I tried to grow last year unsuccessfully are the Sonia. I do have some more of those, but the seed packet's all damp and it got soaked and it was left outside. So I just bought a new seed packet, kind of without realizing I had the old one. So I did that a couple of times with different plants, but you got to hit that free shipping. So, sunflowers still top priority. Next up, I'll be growing some alyssum, this wandering mixture. I thought, again, most of the time when I buy these flowers, it's because I think they look pretty. That's pretty much the one criteria I have for purchasing flower seeds. And then we'll also be growing this viola, the Rococo frilled mix. So be on the lookout for plenty of flowers in the Nebraska garden this summer. And let's go with the old seed packets. Like I said, a lot of them were wet and soaked just from being left outside. Sonia sunflowers, the Benary's giant zinnias, as well as the orange giant zinnias. You saw a lot of those in my garden last year. I thought those turned out very well. I'll be growing more of those. And then we have these tangerine gem marigolds, which I think there are a couple seeds still in here. So I'll try to grow more of those marigolds as well. They popped up briefly last summer, but they weren't that big of a stay in the garden. And then we had these Bloody Mary nasturtiums that never really flowered. They just produced leaves. And so I think I did something wrong with those. And so we'll try again this year with the nasturtiums. And then I had this old packet of mammoth sunflowers. It's a few years old at this point, so we'll try to grow some of these. And I really loved sprinkling these, not in my garden necessarily, but along the side of my house last year, these wildflower mixes. This is a hummingbird mixture, this is a shade mixture, and this is a birds and butterfly mixture. Just a different variety of wild flowers that are native to my area. And they really brought in a lot of pollinators to my garden and my yard. And so I was happy to build up my ecosystem, and I'll definitely be scattering these around haphazardly yet again. So those are all the seeds that I bought this year. Those are all the seeds that I have left over. That's sort of the plan for the Nebraska garden this year. If you have any suggestions of what you think I should go, if there's any seeds you think I really should go out and get individually, let me know about it. Let me know what you're growing this year. I love to hear about what's going on in the gardening community as a whole. I'm very excited for this summer. I've been busting at the seams waiting for these seeds to arrive, not only so that I could share them with you, but so I could get started on starting a bunch of seeds, which I'm going to be doing right after I get done with this video. So please subscribe if you want to check out what I'm doing with all of these seeds. I'll be starting a ton of seeds early, showing you my setup, what lights I use, how I make my growing medium. I know it's not a soil, it's a growing medium. When it's just cocoa coir, that's just a growing medium. It's not soil. I get it. Okay, so please subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with anybody who's interested in finding more seeds to grow in their garden. Like I said at the beginning, Johnny seeds, they're a little more on the expensive side. You definitely don't need to spend as much as I did on these seeds. I'm a little embarrassed at how much I spent on the seeds, to be honest, because I try to be a frugal gardener and not give in to consumerism, but sometimes I fall victim to it just like everybody else. So that's it for today's video. If you're still watching, I really appreciate you. Happy gardening.